Entertainment. Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
6:07 on the Morning Majority. The Bryans are here. Karen Henready in for our Mary Catherine Ham, who's still off for a few days. And on the phone is our good friend Peter Morici. And I'm glad he's here because he understands these economic things that confuse me so. He always brings clarity to any discussion about things economic. And I want to start with a discussion, Mr. Morici, of what's going on with this debate on Capitol Hill about extending the payroll tax cuts. The payroll tax cuts. Here it is. And right now, they sit at 4.2%. And if nothing happens, they go up to 6.2% on January 1st. A lot of politics underway about what they should do on it. And yesterday, 2 votes in the Senate, a GOP proposal and a Republican and a Democrat proposal, both went down in flames. And there's talk in the House about whether or not you should tie the payroll tax extensions to the pipeline project that's been much talked about. What do you think should be done about all this?
Well, it's hard to be against extending the payroll tax, but it's also hard to be against paying for it. If you pay for it by merely raising millionaires' taxes, I don't know what you gain. Mm-hmm. There is a difference between how much millionaires save and how much ordinary people save. They do save a little bit more, but that difference is the only additional spending you get. So you don't get a lot out of it. If you find some ways to cut the deficit long term, then what you're doing is you're getting a payroll tax cut today for deficit savings tomorrow, and so you get some additional stimulative effect. But the bottom line is, if you pay for the payroll tax cut this time around, you got to be prepared for it to end at some point. And I don't know that anybody's willing to do that.
But if you pay for it by cutting in other places, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because you always say that's a big shell game, but I thought we were taking it away from Social Security, which needs to be funded. It's an entitlement program that we need to fix one way or the other, whether it's cutting the payments that we give, whether it's means testing or raising the age. We're not doing any of those things. So instead, we're just taking $200 billion out of Social Security. I mean, is that a smart move?
Overall, no.
Yeah.
As a temporary measure to deal with a recession or this terribly weak recovery that we have, it's okay. But as a long-term policy, and it's becoming one, now, I don't think this president is ever going to let go of it. And basically, it's just another example of what they do up there. And he talks about the Congress being irresponsible. He's in charge. He has an Office of Management and Budget, and he sees the numbers, and he sees how much spending has gone up. There is no way on God's green earth we could raise taxes enough to handle the increase in spending that Pelosi and Obama did. It's 6% of GDP. Mm-hmm. If we raise taxes by 6% of GDP, we'd be in the kind of shape that Spain is in.
Let me ask you, though, the House Republicans have this idea to tie it to the pipeline project. They say, basically, Mr. President, you want the extension of these tax cuts, we'll give you that, but you've got to get over your objection to this pipeline that would create a lot of jobs, it would boost the economy. Isn't that a good trade-off? Because if you build the pipeline, you create jobs, doesn't that help juice the economy, and therefore you get some benefit out of it?
The president is playing politics on every issue you can find, even that Plan B pill, for girls under 17. I mean, doctors are in favor of it, but the president, bowing to conservative forces, basically vetoed. He said it had nothing to do with Sebelius's veto. That's nonsense. A CEO cannot say he's not responsible for the decisions of his, vice president, so to speak. But he's being political about everything. You go to his website, and there's a ticker on the top of it, like a leaderboard, that says there was showing the number of days, hours, and seconds, and until middle-class folks' taxes go up if the payroll tax is not renewed. I mean, that's a blatantly political thing to do with the White House site, which is supposed to be non-political. Now, this guy really is abusing his office. I think we should start counting the number of hours, minutes, and days that he is not political and he's not on the road campaigning.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, I know it's not hard. Zero, buddy, zero. I said not political or not campaigning. Zero. It's not hard. Put just a goose egg up on the top of the, on the leaderboard, right above the one about the payroll tax.
Right. I think a lot of people are going to have the countdown clock on for January 20th, 2013. Like we saw
don't bet on it. I mean, I don't think that I have my questions about whether either Romney or Gingrich can beat him. My feeling is that Gingrich is the one who's most likely to see his errors in a debate and land a knockout punch.
Right.
Unfortunately, then he'll jump up and down on the body, and everybody will be turned off.
There's that possibility.
But with Romney, he'll see the flaws in his moves, but he doesn't have the killer instinct to do anything about it.
Right, and he'll get clocked in the face and get knocked out. Yeah, trust me, we've been hashing this over for quite some time, and it's all worrisome. But if the economy continues to just mutter along, and people don't have a lot of faith in this president moving forward, that's going to work to the Republicans' favor, no matter who the candidate is, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I really am amused by the recent unemployment report. The unemployment rate has gone down mostly because the president has convinced people they don't want a job.
Right.
You don't need a job. We're going to send you checks in the mail. What's going on in Europe, though, is the real threat to us. Mm-hmm. I think the Europeans are bent on reliving the Great Depression. In order to live with this pact, they would have to cut their budget deficits so much over the next 2 or 3 years, and that's not to get down to the absolute limit, but that's just a process of adjustment, that they will relive Herbert Hoover. Europe is really in a great deal of trouble, not simply because it hasn't reached an agreement, but because of what the likely agreement will look like if they ever agreed to it.
What's so terrible about the agreement?
Well, they would basically have to balance their budgets over this business cycle. And I know you guys don't like Keynesian economics on the right, but all economists are Keynesian at some level. It's just a way of analyzing an economy. Mm-hmm. And Europe simply doesn't have enough demand for what it makes if it doesn't have some kind of budget deficit. That doesn't mean it should run around and have a Pelosi-Obama fiscal policy and 10% of GDP deficit.
Right.
But a 0.5% of GDP, that's like telling you should wear shoes one size too small.
Well, drastic measures when you raise taxes and then you cut the amount of spending, austerity, that's the word, right?
Yep.
Okay, that can really weaken and freeze an economy. Is that what you're concerned about, what's going to happen in Europe?
Yes, and it's going to be a program of permanent austerity is what I'm saying. Is that there are basic imbalances in the global economy between Asia on the one hand and Europe and the United States on the other, that until the sources of those imbalances are addressed, namely Asian mercantilism, it's currency manipulation, protectionism, and so forth. You try to sell something in India. The United States and Europe either have budget deficits or recessions. Pick one. It's that dumb simple. Instead of addressing what are the real problems in Europe, and that is a social structure that really is out of whack, the social programs, and addressing the Atlantic relationship with the Pacific, they're playing a game of basically cutting deficits to the limit. And it'll advantage Germany. Right. Germany will get to run Europe, but there won't be much.
And we're not far behind them.
We are not.
Yeah.
No, we are not, because we're not doing what we need to do. Obama has a to-do list, and he's ignoring it. Instead, he's out in Kansas mm-hmm. trying to be. He was Teddy Roosevelt, sure, but in short pants.
All right, Peter, we'll leave it there. Thank you as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.